Hi guys, just a quick run through the SEC2000 assignment. So starting off with the point of the module, just to remind everybody, because that fundamentally shapes, I think, the approach you might take to actually completing the assignment. So the module is aimed to continue studies from first year, both your personal studies and development and your professional studies and development, because the program incorporates both academic and professional practice. So it offers you opportunities to explore the significance, the implications, the impact of educational research in relation to both your own practice and also introduce you to the research process. So including methodological, theoretical, ethical issues involved in the application of research to practice. So the intention is it'll inspire you to consider a specific area ultimately that you might choose to research at level 6, and key components will be the relevance of research for teachers and school communities. And you'll hopefully demonstrate your knowledge of the structure of research, the methodologies they use, and the theoretical frameworks. Okay, so that's the point. The assessment itself, it's a journal. The intention is it'll be written over a number of weeks. And the point of that task is to let you develop as an academic writer. As I said in the session where we focus on the assignment, too often students try to write their academic assessments in a oneer, as if they can just fire off these things, which are supposed to be highly polished pieces of writing, but as if they can be just fired off after your first attempt. So the idea of this task is to show you how writing can get better and better over drafts and re-edits and things like that. The topics, you get a different topic every week for each journal entry, and you're supposed to respond to a prompt. Key point, please respond to the prompt always. And I would advise getting that done first. So if your prompt asks you to do X, your opening sentence and sentences should complete X. After that, it's about the additional stuff. Avoid summary as far as possible. I don't think it's necessary to summarize at all generally, unless you're specifically asked to do so. But by and large, answer the prompt straight away. The number of entries, if you think about 250 to 300 words per entry, and there's about 3,000 words, 3 to 4,000 words devoted to this assignment, I would say you should be aiming for 12 or 13 entries. Now you might enter more, you might complete more entries in your journal, but if you want a specific 12 or 13 read, then put something at the beginning of the entry, maybe in bold red lettering saying, please include this in the assignment, or please read this as part of the assignment. The structure. So as I said, it's about 250 to 300 words. Usually that's about 2 paragraphs. If you look at an academic paragraph being about 150 words, roughly, 2 paragraphs, and would also include a properly formatted reference list. I would recommend 2 sources. 1, the source you have set. 2, a supporting source or piece of evidence. Maybe 3, but definitely no more. 2 is all we're asking for. Spelling, punctuation, and grammar. No excuses. It just has to be right. Okay, so if you happen to be somebody who might struggle with this aspect of writing, then please let us know if you've got a particular student support plan and we can give you bespoke feedback. But there is no excuse for this not being right. Sentences, consider the length. I've read quite a lot of examples of entries, and sometimes sentences are just running on too long. If it's running for more than 2 lines, as a rule of thumb, cut it down. Complexity. Sometimes people tie themselves in knots with sentences that are just too complex. No need. We want accuracy over complexity. Once you've got the accuracy sorted, you can begin to develop complexity, but aim for accuracy first. Commas, I always think keep them to a minimum. If you're using more than 2 or 3 in a sentence, reconfigure the sentence. If you don't know what to do with commas, leave them out and make sure your sentences are constructed in such a way that you don't need them. But basically, a comma is really, when you read your sentence aloud, you almost feel what a comma is, where the pause should be. Periods, straightforward, full stop. A grammatically complete sentence usually has a subject, verb, and an object. Semicolons, again, if you're not sure what they are, avoid them. 2 main uses of semicolons. One is they function like a period, full stop, where you've got two sentences, but in this case, they happen to be very closely linked in sense. So we might separate them with a semicolon. But on each side of the semicolon, there must be two grammatically complete sentences. The other instance where you would use a semicolon is separating items in a list where the items have more than one word. So, for example, if you're listing the flavors of crisps, you might say cheese and onion, semicolon, salt and vinegar, semicolon, smoky bacon, and so on. Colons, like a double period, one dot over the other. They're used usually to introduce a definition or a list. Please learn how to punctuate the word however. I've sent out support and a supporting link to find out how to do that. But in almost all instances, if however is at the beginning of a sentence, it needs just a comma after it. If it's in the middle of a sentence, it normally needs a semicolon before it and a comma after, or there are very specific instances where it doesn't need any punctuation whatsoever. But we've talked about this in session. It's too complex to cover here. But basically, if you see the word however, check you're using it right. And the other bugbear, the word of versus the word have. These are often conflated. People think there is such a thing as could of, should of, would of. It doesn't exist. I think what they're doing is mixing up the contraction would have, would apostrophe VE, but there is never an instance where you would use could have, should have, would have. It's always would have, could have, should have. Okay, there's no such thing as could have. Citations and references, please use the EHU Harvard Referencing Guide. I've shared that with you already. And pay special attention to in-text citations and your end references. And when you're using references in text, mix it up between paraphrase and quotation. Everybody seems to be only using paraphrase, but sometimes the quotation can really make the point for you in much better words than you would give it. And it's nice as well to see that you are faithfully representing what the authors you're quoting have actually said and not your interpretation of what they've said. Style, as always, accuracy is preferred over flair, but focus on polish and flair if you are confident in your accuracy. But do not try to have flair in your writing if you haven't nailed the accuracy yet. So if you're uncertain, go for accuracy. But a bit of flair goes a long way. The prompts, they're on Blackboard in the assessment folder, as are the assessment criteria. We've gone through in the session the criteria we'll use to grade, and particularly look at the first class column. You should be almost able to self-grade when you come to doing this. The glossary and how to use it. It's again, I've given you all the technical discourse I think that we've amassed so far, the bulk of it, but try your hardest to introduce some of the concepts and vocabulary that I have created in the glossary. And then finally, the deadline is April 30th at 4 p.m. No extensions because you've had the entire module to create these entries. So there will be nothing at the end that could justify you requesting an extension on this. Actually, we can't give an extension because the only way we have to set a submission date is by actually locking the journals. And if I have to open them for one person, then I have to open them for everybody. So the journals will be locked on April 30th, 4 p.m. That is effectively your submission. And that's it. So hopefully this has been useful, or will be a useful aide-memoir eventually, because at the time of recording, we've just had the session on how to complete the assessment, but we'll be talking lots more about it in the weeks ahead up until the end of the module. Thanks very much, guys.